Alright, everybody. I am the Pedantic Skeptic, and today I have a treat for y'all. So, here's a little bit of background. I come from a science background, and I have spent about a decade in three different science labs, um, two in Rhode Island and one in Colorado, working a lot with lepidopterans, which are butterflies and moths. Now, technically, butterflies are just a small subset of moths, so moths, basically. And Lepidoptera is one of my specialty areas when it comes to my knowledge realm and my science experiments. Most of my published articles in literature have Lepidoptera in them. So I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to Lepidoptera. Now, today, we have a little bit of a treat. We're going to read an article. It's very short, um, by Answers in Genesis for Kids. Okay, now it's from Answers Kids, or Kids Answers, copyright 2023 Answers in Genesis, but this was taken from their Answers magazine, um, issue 31, from 2018. Now, we are going to look at the article and we're going to talk about why these people are incorrect in their assessment of Lepidoptera, especially primitive Lepidoptera. So, if that piques your interest, stay tuned. Alright, here we go. So, the title of the article is But I'm Hungry Now. On November 1st, 2018 is when this got published onto the internet, although their magazine published this in May, June, whatever. Doesn't have an author, and you can see it's just a paragraph. So let's just quickly read this. Happens off. Yes. Okay, that didn't really do anything. Butterflies and moths evolved about 70 million years before flowering plants, according to researchers' interpretation of new fossil finds. Um, so the first flowering plants are from the early Cretaceous period. And what you have to realize is that flowering plants, angiosperms, became really, really diverse, not only during the late Cretaceous, but in the later Paleogene epoch that occurred after the Kt extinction. Okay. So you have the Cretaceous period that ended 66 million years ago, and then you get into the Tertiary period, which is where we are living now. We're in the Anthropocene. Before that was the Holocene. Before that was the Pleistocene. I think it went Paleogene, Eocene, Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, Holocene. I can't remember exactly, but that's not relevant here. But angiosperms, the angiosperm radiation was about, you know, 70 million years ago, up until like the Paleogene, more recent epochs. Now, one of the things that you have to realize is that fossil lepidopterans are much older than this. So they're correct that they appeared before flowering plants. They appeared quite a bit earlier than 70 million years before. The first leps were known from the Triassic period, which was almost 200 million years prior, according to researchers' interpretation of new fossil finds. Um, they like to say that the data is just interpreted in a certain way, all right, instead of the data shows this and that. The data was interpreted to say whatever. This finding has them speculating how insects with mouthparts designed, see how they say designed, instead of evolved or adapted, to suck nectar, survived until food evolved for them. Okay, now, they could have asked the question, how is it that the butterflies and moths that have these sucking proboscis mouthparts could have survived before flowering plants? And that's not a bad question on its face. It is a good question. And I'm going to answer that question once we finish reading the article. On the other hand, if God created flowering plants on day 3 of creation week as the Bible documents, insects created on day 5 didn't need to tighten their belts for a few millennia while they waited for breakfast. Yes, correct. But one of the things that you have to remember is that primitive Lepidopteran had chewing mouthparts as adults. This is something that these people don't admit to or acknowledge at all. We still have mandibulate lepidopterans. There are only a few. Yucca moths, for example, are mandibulate. They have chewing mouthparts as adults instead of a proboscis. Not only that, there are plenty of moth species that don't eat as adults, so there's no need for nectar in the first place. They aren't acknowledging this, and they're doing that intentionally. Don't tell me that these people don't actually know that mandibulate and non-feeding adult lepidopterans exist. I'm sure they know this. I'm almost certain I bet a good amount of money on that. But they won't tell you that. They want you to believe that every lepidopteran that was around, millions of years ago and that's around today had a proboscis adult. Well, that's just not the case. This is not true. And the fact that they're showing this to children and targeting youngsters is extra disgusting.
Yeah. So, one of the issues is that these people want you to believe particular things um, about biology when they either have a good grasp on biology themselves or they are intentionally being deceptive by withholding information. Um, Now, we are taught generally when we're young that the Lepidoptera, have the siphoning proboscis mouth part that sucks up nectar. Now, first of all, not every species drinks nectar. There are species that drink blood. There are species that drink urine and fecal matter. There are species that eat shit off carrion. There are species that eat tree sap and rotting fruit and things like that. And they can also use the proboscis just to drink water. There are some moth species that don't actually ingest food, but do drink water during the course of their adult lives. Um, Not to mention that many species also just don't feed as adults. They don't even bother with that shit. Um, so, um, Always consult your local lepidopterist. Even if it's just a YouTube person that you barely know. If anybody has questions about Lepidoptera in general in the comments section, just don't be afraid to ask. I will gladly answer. Um, and so, until the next one, stay pedantic, demi-romantic, and as far from the Atlantic as you possibly can. Um, don't forget to like, subscribe, yada yada. I don't know if saying that at the end of the video actually helps get my subscriber and like count up. I don't really give a fuck either way. Bye bye.